Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is yet another vlog. I haven't done one of these videos in a while, but I felt like there were a few things that I wanted to talk about, and I was just kind of waiting for a topic or something that I could discuss or do that could justify a vlog. And I think I got something here. I got a bit of a taste test, which is something a little bit different, and then I got the usual. I'm going to share my thoughts on some movie trailers and some upcoming releases on physical media. So I'm actually gonna get started with the taste test because I've been curious about this soda. This is the Haunted Apple Fanta, which is a tie-in to Beetlejuice. Apparently, it's spiced apple soda. I actually don't mind apple cider, so maybe this might not be that bad. But I have heard some very polarizing things about this soda from people who have tried it. They've been saying things like it's awful. It's like Beetlejuice himself pissed in it and then served it to you in a bottle. So I don't know. I'm just gonna find out for myself. It's been in the fridge for a while, so I don't know if it still has enough carbonation. But it's unopened, so okay, that's a good sign. It doesn't sound like it's gonna be too flat. Um, you could definitely smell the spiced apple. Like that's a pretty strong smell. Whoa. All right. Bottoms up. Hmm. You definitely can taste the spice. It's definitely got spices in it. It definitely has that kind of taste. So it definitely tastes like there is some kind of stuff going on when it comes to the flavor profile, where you're tasting, a combination of spices. I don't know exactly what spices they are. It's not like salt and pepper or anything, but it's definitely aromatic, so to speak. So I think that's something that could definitely turn off some people. But is it still kind of lingering on my tongue? Well, let me try another sip here. I don't hate it. It's not like something that I would say is a personal favorite of mine. I don't know if I would get it a lot, but the kind of kick I'm getting from it kind of reminds me a little bit of Baja Blast. Like not entirely the same kind of kick, but it's a similar sort of kick in terms of the flavor. It's definitely sweet, and then have a bit of that sort of punch that happens, but it's more of a spicy punch. So I think the spices are definitely a turnoff for some people. Um, but I don't mind it. I think it's all right. It's not too bad. I'll go in for another sip. It's definitely a unique flavor, but it's not bad. I honestly does not taste like Beetlejuice, took a steaming fat dump in a bottle and then I decided to piss in it and then you mix it all together. It doesn't taste like that. Um, it's not amazing, but it's okay. It's fine. It's all right. Like if you like green apple, if you like a green apple flavored drink, like I think you'll definitely be into this, especially if you like a little bit of a kick to it. If you're not really a fan of green apple stuff, then yeah, probably not going to be for you. And especially if you're not into a lot of stuff that has like some extra spices and things like that. Now, it's been a while since I've talked about trailers, so I'm going to go back at least a month and then go from there. So, first trailer I want to talk about is Craven the Hunter, the Red Band trailer. Craven the Hunter is a film that honestly I personally had zero hope for when it comes to the concept, the announcement, especially after the previous trailer that I saw prior to this one. But after seeing this trailer, it looks like it could be possibly a time waster. And that's saying a lot considering how much little hope I had for this film prior to watching this trailer. I think it could be a fun time waster, possibly. I think Aaron Taylor Johnson looks pretty formidable in this trailer, and it's got some pretty hard R violence in it, and some of it is done practically, which surprised me. And I think it could be a fun time waster when it comes to the action. I don't think the script is going to be that great. I think it's going to be full of a lot of dumb stuff that you've seen in a lot of these other Sony spin-off movies in the Spider-Man universe. But I do think that there's more hope for this film now than there was before, because it looks like it could be at least a fun time, at least a fun watch for the action and for Aaron Taylor Johnson. I didn't honestly feel that was the case prior to this trailer, and in all honesty, I could be completely wrong once I do eventually see the movie. But it looks like they did some reshoots. They did some things to make the film more palatable and to make it a better movie. I don't know if that's going to wind up making it a good film, but if it makes it an entertaining movie, then I think that's a pretty significant win for Sony. Even if it doesn't wind up doing that well financially, if it just winds up not being as bad as Madam Web or as bad as a lot of people think it will be, that's a plus. And I think the trailer gives you some hope that it possibly could do just that. Now, another trailer I want to talk about is for Y2K. It's an upcoming horror comedy from A24, and I thought it looked like a fun time. I really like the concept of it. I've always felt that this whole, let's just say, insanity surrounding Y2K and the technology going awry at the turn of the new millennium, I've always felt like that would make for a good horror comedy if they did it right. And my first impression from this trailer is that it looks like they're going to do just that. They're going to go crazy with it, which I'm like, that's what you have to do. Like, you can't just be super realistic. You have to go crazy and off the wall and oddball with it. And there's a lot of insane stuff in this trailer. And it looks like a fun movie, and it actually did make me laugh a few times. So that was surprising considering it's an A24 production. I didn't see or sense an ounce or a hint of pretentiousness in this trailer, which is refreshing. It really is. If this winds up being a success, it can show that A24 can branch out and they can do a lot more than just Oscar bait dramas or pretentious horror movies. Now, another trailer I want to discuss is Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. This film looked absolutely tremendous to me. It's one of my more anticipated films of this year. And the reason for that is not just because it made me cry, uh, it's because of the fact that I've always felt a proper documentary about Christopher Reeve, his life and his legacy, could be genuinely amazing and inspiring. And this looks like a film that is going to be one of those movies. It looks like a film that's going to be very honest and truthful, but also at the same time honorable. It's going to honor the legacy and the life of Christopher Reeve. And as somebody who has been a massive fan of Chris's ever since they were a kid, this is something that's been pretty anticipated for me. Christopher Reeve was and will always be an inspiration to me. I even wrote an essay about him for school. The essay was about your heroes. It was about writing about a hero, and I wrote about Chris, and I read his autobiography, and I did a lot of extra research, and through all of that, I came to become even more inspired by the man. And this was when he was still alive. And for me, Christopher Reeve will always be my Superman. And he will always be one of my heroes. For somebody who has dealt with and struggled with autism for their entire life, for somebody who was at a point in their life when they were young when they had to go to physical therapy to just use their hands properly, for somebody that was lashing out at the world because they were so frustrated about things that they didn't quite understand in terms of what was wrong with them or why they weren't normal or why they were being ostracized by other people. To have a beacon of hope like that in the form of Christopher Reeve, a man who, even after everything that he was dealt, getting paralyzed from the neck down in a freak horse riding accident, he still survived. He persevered. He fought. And he found ways to soar above his tribulations and his trials and these countless other issues in his life, and became a genuine hero and somebody that inspired not only me but so many other people. And I think that that's just really great and wonderful that Warner Brothers and DC, they decided to put the money together and make this documentary a reality. Because I think, from what I've seen in the trailer and for what I've heard from people who have seen it, it definitely seems like a film that is going to be that beacon of hope, that beacon of light that Chris was and that Chris represented. So that to me is just tremendous. And I know though, like when I do get around to watching that, like I'm probably gonna be a mess. I mean, I was already choking up just watching the trailer. I can't even imagine what it'll be like watching the actual film. But on a lighter note, the next trailer I want to talk about is Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And interestingly enough, like I want to talk about how surprisingly dark the trailer was. Like it wasn't grim dark Zack Snyder stuff, but it was darker than I anticipated. Like they're taking the Shadow the Hedgehog stuff pretty seriously. And I like the casting choice of having Keanu voice him. I think it's a good fit. And I like that there was this seriousness. There was a bit more of an edge in the trailer. Like the stakes seemed a little bit higher. It wasn't as jokey, wasn't as comedic. I like that. I think there's still going to be levity and still have some jokes and stuff like that because, it's a Sonic film. But I think this time around, I think they're going to take things a little bit more seriously. Um, Minus some of the stuff involving Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik. But, that's what you're going to get with Jim Carrey playing that character. But I like the visuals. Looked good in terms of the direction from the trailer. Definitely looked like it would have some good action scenes. And I like the first two Sonic films, so I'm looking forward to that one. I think it could be a good sequel. Now, another trailer I want to talk about is a Night Bitch. What in the fuck is this movie? I know that it's based on a book. I could care less that it's based on a book. This is the kind of film where I'm like, they wasted money. They spent money on pre and post production and casting people and doing editing and hiring a director and doing everything in terms of having a cast and crew for a movie like this with such a ridiculous, absurd concept that, in my opinion, will never work. It deals with a harried, overworked single mom who, through some weird circumstance, starts turning into a dog. And of course, it's very political. It's very much into gender politics and gender ideology and all of that. and it's supposed to be a dark comedy, but I didn't laugh once while watching the trailer. It just looks like an absolute disaster. The title itself is already a complete and utter joke, and not in a good way. And then when you watch the trailer and you see Amy Adams's performance and you see a lot of other things about it, and you get the hint that it's going to be pretentious and, full of itself and just sniffing its own farts, it makes it even more off-putting. So I think that could easily be one of the worst films of the year, in all honesty. Now, the next trailer I want to talk about is a film that I think could easily be one of the worst films of next year, of 2025, and that is a Minecraft movie. I don't play Minecraft, and even I am like, this looks like ass. This looks like shit. What are they doing with this? They're doing Jumanji again, or honestly, the Jumanji sequels again, but this time with Minecraft. That's all this is. It's live actors in a Minecraft CGI world, and it looks like garbage. It looks so fake. The green screen effects look worse than shit in Spy Kids 3D. And if you look worse than Spy Kids 3D, you are seriously failing. You are failing on an epic scale if you look worse than Spy Kids 3D when it comes to your green screen. Jack Black just looks like he got up off his couch, walked onto the set, and is delivering next to no real effort. The other characters that are shown in the trailer, Jason Momoa, who is like a fat guy wearing a pink jacket, really doesn't give the best first impression because he just seems like an annoying character. The two other characters, like the African American lady and the two kids, they don't look like they're going to be that fun to be around. And the CGI sucks, and it looks ugly, and it just looks like a bad movie. But here's the thing. I don't actually think this is going to flop. I actually think that this film is going to be a massive hit. I hope I'm proven wrong in 2025, but knowing how well something like Five Nights at Freddy's did and how this is going to be appealing to a younger demographic who watches Minecraft videos on YouTube, they're just going to go and see the Minecraft movie, whether or not it looks good, and it's going to make a shit ton of money. I wish, and I honestly hope I am wrong, but I highly doubt that I will be. Now, something that will not make money is Megalopolis. This film is going to be a mega bomb. I called it when this project was announced. And seeing the marketing and how much of a fail it is, where they're using AI to create fake quotes and then had to delete the trailer, and the pre sales are through the fucking floor and into the basement, this film is going to be a massive flop. And rightfully so. It's a ridiculous vanity project from Francis Ford Coppola, who, in my opinion, is honestly a scumbag. So he deserves to fail. He doesn't deserve for this to succeed. I mean, this man protected Victor Salva. So, yeah, he protected and advocated for Victor Salva after he was convicted of sexual assault of a minor. So that's the kind of person that Francis Ford Coppola is. So he deserves this massive bomb, this critical flop, and this financial embarrassment. He deserves to lose all of his vineyard money on this just ridiculous vanity project. Serves him right. Now, some other trailers. Wolfman, Leigh Whannell's next film. Okay, he did Invisible Man. He did Invisible. Yeah, he did the Invisible Man, and I almost said Invisible Woman, but it's not the Invisible Woman. It's Invisible Man with Elizabeth Moss, and then he's doing Wolfman. Are you not able to do anything different now, man? Are you just doing? Is this what your deal is with Universal? Just doing strange retellings of Universal monsters? This looked even less interesting than the Invisible Man did. Like, I didn't really care for that trailer. It didn't really look that great. But it's just a teaser, so there's not a lot to go off of, but it wasn't a really strong first impression. Saturday night, I'm really looking forward to this one. I am a huge fan of SNL, at least early SNL, some 80s SNL, 90s SNL, 2000s SNL. Not so much SNL nowadays, but I'm still anticipating the debut episode of season, I think it's like season 50 or something like that. Or is it the 40th season? No, I know we're already past the 40th season. I think it's the 50th season. So I'm looking forward to the premiere, just to see what the new cast is capable of, see how SNL is 50 years later. Well, not 50 years later, but 50 seasons later, and to see the cold open and with the debate parody, because I think that could be really funny if they do it properly. But that's a whole other topic entirely. But I grew up watching the DVDs and VHS tapes of early SNL, and I've read SNL books. So a film about the days and or the hours leading up to the premiere episode of SNL in 1975, I think has some serious potential to be a really compelling, fun, and enjoyable movie. And from the trailer, it looks promising to me. The whole idea of it being a simulated one shot kind of thing, I think is really cool. And definitely looks like they got some good, talented cast members. And they're recreating the period and the whole look and the wardrobe and everything of the mid 70s pretty well, pretty authentically. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Definitely in large part because I am a big fan of that era of SNL. And I've always felt that that era of SNL and everything leading up to the debut of that show honestly would make for a good movie. So I think that if they handle that correctly, I think that could definitely be a winner, at least for me personally. Transformers One, I don't really give a shit about the Transformers take on Guardians of the Galaxy because it in animated form. That's really what that movie is. Hey, let's do Guardians, but with Transformers. The whole let's do Guardians, but this is already played out. Borderlands was hey, it's Guardians, but with Borderlands characters. It's like, can we do something else? Why do we have to keep doing this? Um, I also saw the trailer, the last trailer for Venom: The Last Dance still looks like shit. I don't understand why people are anticipating that. To each their own. It looks awful. And the subtitle is dumb. The Last Dance, like what? What are they what are they thinking? Do they think that they're the Chicago Bulls with Michael Jordan and it's their last dance with Venom? Come on now. Give me a break. Uh Your Monster, that's a movie that's going to have Melissa Barrera and it's like a rom-com with a Beauty and the Beast parody. But while I'm watching it, I'm like, this just reminds me of My Demon Lover, but if it was really lame, then I'd rather just watch a My Demon Lover again with Scott Valentine than whatever this is. In terms of other trailers, I don't really. I mean, Mickey 17, that looked promising, but it did remind me of like Groundhog Day and Moon. But I like Robert Pattinson. Joon Ho is a pretty good director. Definitely looked like it had some good visuals in it. But I'm not entirely 100% sold on the plot or the tone, especially when it comes to the comedy. The comedy seems a little bit off in that trailer. And some of the performances seem a little bit too off. Like Mark Ruffalo, for instance. It seems like he's just going to be chewing the scenery the entire movie in cringe-inducing fashion. Because if his performance in the trailer is any suggestion whatsoever of what I'm going to see in the movie itself, he's going to be a pretty big knock on the film because his performance in that trailer was terrible. Now, Might as well talk about a couple sequels, I guess. Den of Thieves 2 looks like it should go direct to video. I don't understand why they're even making a sequel to Den of Thieves. Is there anybody in the comments that actually wants a sequel to Den of Thieves? Because I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. I definitely don't want a sequel to that. I don't give a shit about Den of Thieves 2 or Gladiator 2. Gladiator 2 looks like it's going to have some spectacle moments, but nothing else. And I also don't like the fact that it's basically retconning shit and being like, hey, Lucius is actually Maximus's son. That wasn't the case in Gladiator. The kid even said, I am named after my father. There was nothing in that film that suggested or even provided any evidence that Maximus was Lucius's father. So the fact that they're doing that with Gladiator 2 is kind of frustrating because it's not kind of frustrating, it is frustrating because it just makes Maximus's revenge honestly a lot less effective and a lot less powerful because he always had another son that was still alive. So we thought that he was fighting for the memory and for the death of his son and his wife, but he had another son the entire time. It's kind of cheap. And then on top of that, having that son then grow up and then become a slave and then also have to fight in the games as a gladiator kind of sucks. And then you also throw in the fact that everything that Maximus fought for and died for at the end of Gladiator is rendered completely pointless with this sequel because Rome is still controlled by a tyrant. The Colosseum games are back and they're bigger and they're crazier and wilder than ever. And nothing was learned, nothing was gained when it comes to Maximus's sacrifices. So it makes everything that he went through mostly pointless. Oh, he didn't really avenge the death of his wife and son because he had another son the entire time. So he kind of died for nothing. Could have still lived and then been there for his son, but no, had no idea that Lucius was his son, so he died not knowing that he had another son. Oh, and he also died for nothing because a tyrant still took over and Rome was not given back to the people like Marcus said that he wanted it to, and like Maximus said in his dying words. So I just that really rubs me the wrong way when it comes to this, and so does a lot of the tone in the trailer and ill-fitting pieces like Samuel. I almost said Samuel L. Jackson, like Denzel Washington. I think it's because Samuel L. Jackson and Denzel Washington they're like in a ton of stuff lately. It's almost like they're in everything. Not because it's two black actors, it's because I just see them a lot lately, and they seem to be choosing like questionable projects that you're kind of like, really? You chose that movie instead of all these other projects that you could be doing and utilizing your talents in? So, yeah, Gladiator 2, in my opinion, other than the visuals and some of the spectacle, doesn't look that good. I will say this though, it looks more promising than Red 1, where The Rock is just playing himself again, and it's just some lame take on a Christmas movie, but this time, what if Santa Claus was a bodybuilder and kind of a badass, and then he had a team of you know badasses, and they had to save him, and there's a polar bear who's got like rippling muscles, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, really, really. Like Red One honestly seems like a parody of a rock movie. It doesn't seem like it's like a legit thing. It seems like it's a parody, like an SNL parody of like what The Rock would be doing for a movie nowadays. It's a joke. And so is Thunderbolts. I don't know what Marvel was thinking with this. Who is asking for a Thunderbolts movie? I can't think of anyone. I mean, it's not like the Black Widow film did really well financially. I called it when I saw that Deadpool and Wolverine was going to be doing massive box office. That is a one off because that has an established fan base. People have been wanting to see that and anticipating to see that for a long time. And having Wolverine thrown in there just really increased more anticipation and more excitement for that movie. The same excitement is not there for Brave New World, the Captain Falcon movie, and it's not there for Thunderbolts. Those two films are going to underperform and they're not going to do that great. And we're going to go back to where we were with Marvel prior to Deadpool and Wolverine, where their standalone films are underperforming in the box office. I am going to call it. Thunderbolts is not going to do that well. Doesn't look good either from the trailer. It looks like it honestly looks like another Disney Plus Marvel show. So now that I've talked about the trailers and talked about some upcoming releases and physical media, Happy Gilmore is going to get a 4K from Kino Lorber with a new restoration. I'm looking forward to that. The Blu-ray is pretty old. The transfer is not that great. So I think there could definitely be an upgrade. And I really like that film. That's actually my favorite Adam Sandler movie. So I definitely would like to grab that sometime. Do not care about the sequel though. We don't need Happy Gilmore 2. That's just me personally. Kino's also doing a 4K of, well, it's just a Blu-ray. It's just a new 4K scan of Hot Pursuit with John Cusack. I don't think it's that great of a film, so I'm okay with my DVD of that one. But if you're a fan of it, hey, there's an upgrade for you. I know there's a bit of controversy about the Substance, the current, like the not current, like the recent body horror film that came out with Demi Moore. It's getting a Blu-ray from Mubi, but they're not doing a 4K, so some people are definitely not super big on that. I'm hoping it does get a US release though, because this is an overseas release, so it could potentially be region locked. I'm not really somebody who has to deal with that because I have a region free player, but I know there's a lot of people who don't, so I think that could pose a problem. Kino's also going to be doing a 4K of Below, which is actually a pretty decent film from the director of Pitch Black. Looking forward to that. The Blu-ray has been pretty poor. I think it was a Mill Creek release, so like there's definitely a lot of room for improvement when it comes to the transfer that has previously existed for Below. Scream Factory is doing a bunch of re-releases of steelbooks. They're doing one for Escape from New York with some pretty shitty graffiti art. I don't know why they're doing that. I don't know why they're doing half the shit that they're doing lately. Let's hire a guy who's a pioneer in AI and then have him say in the interview, well, not in the interview, have him say in a quote that he's looking forward to bringing AI to the company and then backtrack and say, "Oh, he's not doing anything with AI." Bullshit. You just got caught. People saw his statements, they called you out on it, and instead of owning up to it, now you're just backing out and just being a bunch of bitches about it. Like, I would have more respect if Shout Factory was just like, yeah, we are going to be using some AI for some things. Not for our legacy, not for the, Scream Factory titles, not for the new restorations of older and classic films. We're going to be using it maybe for, some stuff with our upcoming independent films. And I'd be like, okay, all right. But they didn't do that. They didn't clarify anything. They're just like, we're not going to be doing that. And it's like, you're going to be doing it. Let's just air out everything and put it out in the open. MVD is going to be releasing a Blu-ray collector's edition of Men of War with Dolph Lundgren, which is cool. I think it's a good movie. It's a gem. So I'm looking forward to picking that up sometime. Do not give a shit about Friends in 4K. I don't have a Blu-ray of Tales from the Crypt, but we have a 4K of Friends. Great. Lovely. Warner Brothers will spend the time to restore and remaster a sitcom, but won't spend the time and the money to remaster Tales from the Crypt. Make it make sense. The Terminator is getting a 4K, but Jimmy Cammy and Park Road Post already fucked with it. I've already seen people's recollections of what they saw in the theater when it comes to the new restoration. Linda Hamilton's looking like an AI recreation half the time. There's barely any grain. Uh, this is just so frustrating. It really is. And it still doesn't have the mono track. Like, what? Why? Just give it, at least give us the mono track. Like, why are you refusing to give us the mono track for the Terminator? Kino Lorber's also doing a release of The Hunted with Benicio del Toro and Tommy Lee Jones, which is cool. It's a good William Friedkin film. I think it's actually one of his more underrated movies. So I'm looking forward to that. The Blu-ray's fine, but I definitely think there could be a bit of an upgrade there. Universal's doing a 4K of the Sugarland Express. I don't really know if that needs one, but okay. Kickboxer's getting a 4K from Lionsgate. Cool. I hope they don't use the same Smurf artwork that they did for the Blu-ray release. Stir of Echoes is getting a 4K, which I think is well deserved. Especially since a lot of the Blu-rays for that film are disc rotted now because they were made during the time when Lionsgate was using pretty cheap materials that just wound up getting disc rot. Galaxy Quest is getting a 4K. That's awesome. I already pre-ordered it because I'm a huge fan of that film. And I think if the remaster is done properly, that could really make for a really nice looking 4K. The Cell is also getting a 4K from Arrow, which I think that's another film that could really wow with a proper remaster. And Arrow is a pretty good company to handle that, despite their quality control issues as of late. Umbrella is going to be doing a 4K of Hardware, the Richard Stanley film. I'm looking forward to that because I'm a fan of that movie, and I never really had a chance to get the Blu-ray because it was too expensive and out of print by the time that I had the money to be able to afford it. And I just only have the DVD for that one. Just looking up here, Blazing Saddles is getting a 4K with shitty cover art for either version, sadly. Why can't they just use the theatrical poster art? I really don't get this. They did this all the time with the DVD releases. They rarely ever didn't use the theatrical art for a long time when it comes to the DVD releases. But now it's just all shitty Photoshop and just ugly as hell looking artwork. You have these different collector's editions coming out of Labyrinth and Dark Crystal from Shout Factory, and they're overpriced and they're absolutely absurd. Like, what in the fuck are you thinking? Let's charge people $80 for the cheapest version of these movies, and then charge up to $250 for the more expensive versions of these movies, just because we have like a prop, a fake prop from the movie, and like some lobby cards and posters and some other shit. These two films have already been out in 4K, so it's not like this is the first time that they're coming out in 4K. But watch people still buy it because it's Scream Factory, it's Shout Factory. They got to do it. They can't have any holes in their Scream Factory or Shout Factory collection. But all you're doing by buying that stuff is just honestly supporting their bullshit. M. Night Shyamalan, he's got a couple classics coming out in 4K later with Signs and The Sixth Sense with awful cover art. Shout Factory, they're going to do a Shout Select 4K of Born on the 4th of July. Cool. I like that film with Tom Cruise. Definitely wouldn't mind upgrading my DVD. They're also doing a 4K of Rush. Who is like, yeah, that Chris Hemsworth film that pretty much everybody's forgotten about. Yeah, let's make a 4K of that. But or Bones and All. Sure, great. Wonderful idea. Or drag in the Bruce Lee story in 4K. Hush, okay. Hush is getting released. I wasn't really that big of a fan of Hush, to be honest, but I wouldn't mind giving that another shot. I really think that has potential to be, you know, not as bad as I remember it being, but I'm not paying crazy amount of money for some bullshit slipcover poster combo pack from them. I'll just buy the standard release later. Um, just looking further down here for any like upcoming stuff. Still the same stuff that I already talked about. Okay, so there is going to be like a standalone, cheaper version of the Dark Crystal and Labyrinth, but they're going to be Walmart exclusives. And they're going to be limited edition steelbooks. And for Labyrinth in particular, there's some really shitty cover art with a baby wearing a headband. I don't know why that's being used instead of the poster for the film, but they just don't do that anymore for some reason. Vinegar Syndrome announced that they're going to do a 4K of Howling 2. I don't mind the film as like a so bad it's good time waster, but that does not need a 4K. Arrow's going to be doing a Simple Plan. Okay, it's a pretty good movie. I don't know if really needs a 4K collector's edition, but it's a good film. The Invasion, nobody's asking for that. That's right up there with the Pitch Black sequel. Or no, the Clash of the Titans double feature 4K that they're coming out with or already came out with. Neverending Story is getting a ridiculously overpriced set from Imprint Films 40th anniversary that's in a case that looks like the storybook, and you got a poster and lobby cards and all of this other stuff. Is going to cost you $200 and something to import to the US. And somebody asked Imprint whether or not they're going to be doing a standard release, and Imprint said they won't be. Don't buy that. Either another company will step up and do a standard release for Neverending Story, or Imprint will do it themselves. I've heard this all the time from these companies. Synapse did this when the Kindred Steelbook came out, and people asked them if there was going to be a standard release, and they said there was no plans for it in the future. And then a standard release eventually came out. So I don't buy that when it comes to Neverending Story. Neverending Story is a popular, well-known enough film that there's no way that Imprint is going to be the only company releasing that in 4K. There's no way in hell that's going to happen. So you can spend that money for the limited edition if you want, if you're a massive, like, huge diehard fan and you want the case that it comes in and want all of that, but don't buy that they're the only company that's going to be able to release that film in 4K. In fact, it was already released in 4K overseas in Germany. Blair Witch Project is getting a Second Sight collector's edition that I definitely would like to grab one of these days. I'm kind of saving up for some stuff, trying to pay some bills off, but like I wouldn't mind grabbing that. Probably get the standard edition. Shout is releasing like a bunch of limited releases of Blu-ray titles that barely anybody has fucking heard of or isn't asking for. Man of the Year with Robin Williams, one of his more forgettable comedies. Something called Model House, Perrier's County or Bounty, Formosa Betrayed with James Vanderbeek. Yeah, they're releasing those on Blu-ray. Who in the fuck gives a shit about those Blu-ray releases? Like, Shout Factory's getting to the point where it just stop releasing so many Blu-rays. Because they're not going to sell any or barely any copies to begin with. So just quit while you're ahead. And I guess I can leave my last thoughts here for you guys and gals who are watching to be another release that's going to be coming out in physical media later this year that I'm really, really looking forward to. And it's Michael Mann's The Keep. There's been a leak. Michael Mann's The Keep is finally coming out on Blu-ray. And I think it's also coming out in 4K. And it's going to be released by Vinegar Syndrome. And it's going to be one of their halfway to Black Friday, I think, titles for pre-order. If it's not, I will be shocked. If it's not one of their titles for that, which should be available, I think, for pre-order later this month. If it's not that, then it's going to be released during Black Friday, because the cat has been out of the bag, so to speak. There was a guy who did artwork for the release who stupidly put up a page to sell the artwork for the release online and had in the description of the URL Vinegar Syndrome. That quickly got taken down, but people saved the page, and you can clearly see in the URL that it says Vinegar Syndrome. And also, the writer of the Keep, F. Paul Wilson, he also confirmed that he did some interviews. So this is definitely going to be happening, and it's about damn time. So I'm really looking forward to that. But that's just my thoughts on trailers and upcoming physical media releases. And until next time, I'll see you later. Oh, and cheers to you.